Okay, so here I am in my studio, and I'm just going to show you a little bit of the process of going through a magazine and just pulling out suitable pages to start to build our palette. Okay, so first magazine, just a normal Sunday colour supplement. So, for example, here's actually a centerfold, so I can pull that out completely. But I don't want the type, so I'm just going to cut out very roughly around some of these areas. You might say, well, that's all a bit dark. Yeah, it is a bit dark, but then images have dark areas in them as well. So I want everything from dark to light, and I might file this under black and grey or brown. I'm quite interested in those sunglasses actually. I think those might come in. But there we go, we'll just put that on one side for now. Then here we've got, I can just pull this one out again. Don't need to be too careful about it, but eventually I'm going to cut out the bits of type and just be left with the other bits around there. But look at all the variation in that chair. So that could be very useful for all sorts of subtle things. I'm looking for bits and pieces which have got some variation in tone or colour in them. I don't just want flat colour really, because everything has got a surface, everything's got a bit of a variation in tone in it. Again, put that to one side. Oh, there's not something really bright red here. Oop. Tore that up a little bit. I'm not being terribly careful, but it really doesn't matter. So that is clearly going to go in my red pile. So if any of you are planning on doing red pepper, for example, that is going to be great for some of that sort of work. Okay, what else have we got in here? I know there was something else I'd spotted in here, which is a big face. Okay, so here we go. It's actually Hillary Clinton, whether you like her or not, but that's a good photograph. Look at all the range of tones in that skin, and when you're that close up, you really see the texture of the skin. Again, whether you might look at that as a photograph and not be so impressed, older person's skin or whatever, but for a resource for magazine collage, it's great. Also the hair. Really, really useful for all sorts of different things. So I'm going to put that on one side. So that's just a few examples from a typical sort of Sunday supplement. Country living. A lot of people have country living, and what have I got in here? So, yes. So I've got a page with all sorts of things on there. Young lady with various flags and so on in the background. Again, so I'm just actually going to cut out that bit of type for now. Again, I might file that under brown-ish, maybe pink, but we'll see what we can do with that anyway. What have we got here? We've got all sorts of mixture of things in there. I really like those blues. Indigo, so things like jeans and that sort of thing, really seem to come into an awful lot of things, landscapes particularly. There's a lot of indigo when you start looking, so some nice colours and tones in there. A bit of blossom. The thing I like about this is that you've got some out of focus areas as well as the in focus areas on there, which I think might come in really handy with parts of the wine bottle. Stick that on again. I'll just trim that down. You see, I'm just being very rough because it really doesn't matter. There's so much resource in a magazine. It doesn't matter if you're cutting out things which could have been useful, because there's so much and there'll always be something else. So I'll stick that in there. Again, a couple of things in here which might come in handy. Again, just roughly cut away the type. So I hope you're getting the idea of how we can get a bit of a... one more thing I wanted to show you. Look at that lovely basket. Look at all the different textures and so on going on in there. So I'm going to cut out the white bit here. I don't really want that. But I'm just thinking of my aubergine, looking at those lovely shadows underneath the basket and thinking those lovely purples in there might really come in handy when I come to do the aubergine. Okay, there we go. So country living. One more magazine just to show you. I mean, you can use any magazine at all, but this is Lonely Planet. You get some really interesting things in different magazines. So look at the textures in that wall. Does that remind you of things like a slice of cake or a slice of bread, biscuits, those sort of crumbly structures and textures there which might find their way into some food like that. And you've got some lovely subtle tones in the background as well. So again, all sorts of things that might be useful for. I generally don't throw anything away, so I keep the magazines even when I've cut bits and pieces out of them. Now on here, again, I'm thinking of the aubergine, and there's all sorts of dark areas, but actually black is never just black. It's always got a variety of tones in it. So I quite like getting a bunch of different dark pieces so that I've got some choices. Because when you put things together in a combination, it really starts to bring an image to life. So I'm going to cut out some of these bits, but at the same time, I quite like the rhythm and the pattern that you get with those chairs on the beach. So I'm actually going to cut that one out first and see what I'm left with on the back. All there is the way sometimes that you get one piece you want on one side of the page and something completely different that you also want on the other side, but hey. So that's going to go there, and I've still got some nice dark bits on the back, so there we go. I'll cut that out as well. Okay, so I hope that just gives you, finally, I couldn't possibly go without, don't ignore the covers. Look at those lovely patterns and details in there, particularly on the animal fur. Lots of subtle browns in there. That's obviously going to go in my brown pile, but all of those sorts of details can come in for a whole variety of different subject matter. So there we have it. You can use any magazines you like at all. I do suggest food magazines are great for landscape in particular, and that's something we'll cover in the workshop. That in particular, contrast in scale is great. So we'll be mostly looking at large scale things like bits of landscape for making up the still life. Conversely, when we come to do the landscape, food magazines will be a great resource. So just because I haven't shown you any food magazines here, it's only because I'm concentrating on the still life at the moment. But in the afternoon session, you will want food magazine material, but I'd encourage you to keep that on one side just for the afternoon session, because you'll really see how that contrast in scale really comes to life and brings the image to life. Okay, thank you.